Hours after that warning from the Prime Minister came the the attempt to attack an army bunker along the line of control. And as I said, the phrase used by the army in its official release is intruder. But what is quite clear now is that increasingly the Pakistan army is trying something. What they're trying specifically, we don't know. We're going to try and understand from our experts here. Before I come to all the generals, Sushant, I'll start with you. What do you make of what's going on? You know, when you look at what's been happening in the Jammu region, clearly, again, the imprint of the Pakistan army is there. But in the last few weeks, more soldiers have died in the line of duty than terrorists have been killed as Pakistan's military tries to open a full-fledged front in the Pir Panjal. Now you have the line of control inflamed. What's going on?
So, Barkha, in your initial comments, you said many analysts are saying that what is happening is beyond the norm, that the Pakistan army is becoming way more deeply involved. When was it not deeply involved in terrorism in Kashmir? It always has been, number one.
But it's used proxies, right? It seems to be using its own men now. That's what I meant.
No, how do we know those were not its own men? Even the proxies are their own men. I think these are needless distinctions that we make to give them some kind of plausible deniability. There is none, as far as I am concerned. I follow the Godfather dictum that even if lightning strikes, it's their fault. It's as simple as that. Now, the thing is, what is our response? Number one, I think our response has always been reactive. I'll give you one example. When Pulwama happens, we take 2 weeks to do a Balakot. The Pakistanis respond within 2 days. And then we don't up the ante, which we should have at that point of time. Even today, I think we should have expected what is happening for a couple of reasons. One, the Pakistanis have their back to the wall. They think that the Indians have kind of written them off, that these guys don't count for anything, and they need to make a demonstration, a show of force to India, that they are very much in the fray, that they are not down and out. Number two, there is a domestic compulsion for the Pakistanis, because the Pakistan army is being criticized left, right, and center within Pakistan, and especially within Punjab. So they need to rake up tensions with India, not get into a bigger conflict, but rake up tensions, because that they think will unite the people behind them. Number three, you have a new army chief in Asim Munir. Please remember, he was the ISI chief when Balakot happened, or rather when Pulwama happened. And he is a man with a somewhat jihadist mindset, very different from what Bajwa was. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to see how far he can put the Indians. Very clear. It was always going to happen. Many of us were warning. What is happening in Jammu is partly a dynamic of how terrorism has operated in Jammu and Kashmir. But again, what has happened today is even a bigger dare from what happening from the Pakistani side. But importantly, Barkha, if, for example, we are saying that the Prime Minister makes a speech yesterday, and then within 24 hours, there's a bat action in the Kupwara sector, then it tells you how prepared the Pakistanis are to ratchet up tensions and to turn the tap on terrorism as far as India is concerned. And this is something which should be bothering us. Now, what happens very often in India is that we seem to think, okay, fine, we've got 5-6 months of peace. We start declaring victory. We claim that everything is done and over with. And then, the Pakistanis surprise us. They've always surprised us, and they're surprising us once again. And what surprises me is how gullible either we are or how unprepared we are for these surprises, even though warnings are continuously issued by people who study this issue that please don't take this lightly. Please, there is a threat coming. One final point. I am of the view that, this nonsense that we have internalized, that if they cross a certain threshold, only then we will do something. That is the biggest and the most brainless thing I've ever heard in my life. Increasingly, even I used to think that, but I think I've developed a brain since then. Because how do you define a threshold? Do you define a threshold when 5 soldiers are killed and 2 or 3 of them are beheaded? Is that your threshold? Is it when 40 people die, your threshold? Is it when a civilian bus is attacked? Is that your threshold? What the hell is your threshold? And then what is your preparation that within hours, if not a couple of days, that there is going to be a massive and a robust response to what the Pakistanis have done. Do we have any? We have 3 generals, very distinguished men, all of them. I would like to put this question to them. What has been our response? So I think there is this problem which has always been there from the Indian side, that, you know, we keep waiting. Okay, fine, we'll roll with the blow another time. I don't think we can afford to do this endlessly. And one last point, Barkha. Please remember, strategically, we are in a much better position right now. The Pakistanis have always done this, you know, playing this brinkmanship. They are at a place where they cannot play this brinkmanship for the reasons we expected them not to do anything. That is also the reason why we need to play this game better than them, which means that they are already occupied on their western front. So we need to ratchet up tensions like never before on the eastern front to squeeze them on 2 fronts, number 1. And number 2, their economy is on the ropes. We need to increase the cost for the economy hell of a lot more than what we have done so far, so that you squeeze them even more. So please do not follow the Prithviraj Chauhan syndrome that, okay, my enemy is down and out, let me pick him up once again, let me be chivalrous. There is no chivalry with barbarians.
No chivalry with barbarians. Let me take some of Sushant's very trenchant questions to the 3 generals now. I'll start with you, General Shukla. Sushant says Pakistan has, you know, surprised us despite warnings. I specifically remember a few days ago, you and I were on a program with some other distinguished military veterans in a different context, but we were looking at Jammu, we were looking at other challenges. And the point made by all of you was that in the run-up to the Kargil anniversary, Pakistan was going to ratchet up tensions, right? We've seen schools within cantonment areas shut down as a matter of precaution. I don't know if we can use the word surprise. I think Sushant's point is we all knew that there is going to be some sort of attempted escalation. What are we doing about it? Now, of course, we all know that what we're doing about it can't always be said in public. And just because everything is not said in public, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. But do respond to everything that Sushant has said. General Shukla, I'll start with you.
So, you know, I agree with Sushant's primary premise that, you know, in terms of what he calls our readiness levels and all and so forth, there is scope for improvement. But let me just put the whole thing in perspective. See, what has happened today is what I think we all know, General Dhruv, General Katoch would know. From media report, it appears to me a BAT action, what we call a border action team action, which is a mix of their SF and terrorists who attack, you know, posts along the line of control. And coming on the back of the spate of terror attacks, it does seem that, you know, Pakistan's proxy war is in full flow once again, if it ever ended. And all that talk of General Bajwa's geoeconomics and all was a big fudge. The point, you know, is it has, not that it has not happened before. When, because of Kargil, there was dislocations in our terror grade, all these kind of things happened. I remember I was the G1 Ops in Akhnoor when almost an army commander was shot. There was a terror attack on Kaluchak. This whole business of terrorists finding refuge in a forest, so operational Sarvinash was done. I remember General Idda was the 16th Corps commander. So what we are seeing now is, you know, the widening of the arc, escalatory spiral from the hinterland to the LC. The point remains that the Indian Army will take care of it. It has taken care of it in the past. Now, the question that Sushant raises has to be linked is to an escalatory ladder. See, when it's not that things didn't happen. When we did a series of things along the LC onto Balakot, did he back off? Of course he did. He backed off for a while, and therefore we had great peace along the line of control. Now, it is very difficult for people like me from the outside to tell those who are in command now as to what they should do by way of escalation. Should you, the first BAT action, should you do a Balakot? You know, the responses have to be escalatory. But yes, if Sushant is saying that we are allowing the same thing to happen again, could we have done better? We could have. What has happened primarily? And now this is linked to the larger question. And here I have a view that this Pakistan-China nexus, it's not a nexus, it is a deep military alliance. I do not have proof, but I have a very strong hunch Moment something happens along the LACs, so you move RR sector out, you vacate the terror grid, and these series of things now start happening. Now, if you have to reconstruct the terror grid, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to build to build networks. It will go to take 6-8 months. I have no doubt that this whole thing will be stabilized, but it will take a while. So the lesson here primarily is this, that see, when it comes to the valley and these areas, technology cannot replace terror. We were told that time that when we vacate the grid, paramilitary will come in. The paramilitary is not up to it. So the point is that the grid has got weakened. So we see now the Pakistanis back in business. They will be set right. We must link it to the larger issues. Now, here is the larger issues are what? And here we must not, if we take a slightly 10,000 feet view, we must realize that India's strategic adversariality is indeed great. You cannot do this. Pakistan remains a pest and China is the actual threat. But if you shift focus this side and that side, that is what he'll make you do. So there you need, larger issues, like I've been saying for a while, finessing our strategic deterrence, raising defense budgets, because we do not have, the luxury of switching from China to Pak to China. I'll give you just one more example. Just after 26/11, I was in MO Directorate, and a distinct decision was taken to rebalance to the northern borders. It got interrupted, or before 26/11, it got interrupted by 26/11 and this whole Pakistan focus. And then we rebalanced after Galwan. We should have rebalanced before Galwan. So the point is that these Pak-China nexus is an intimate military alliance. I have a strong hunch they do it in concert. And so, I mean, could our preparedness have been better? Certainly. But, Pakistan remains a pest. What they are doing has been done in the past. We'll get the better of them.
Okay, I want to pick up this, coupled with what General Shukla has said. Sushant's question, General Dua, what is our threshold? And actually, it's a very, Sushant seems to imply that, you can't arbitrarily decide that, these many lives is what our threshold is. But equally, when it is an instrument of a country's state policy to inflict terror on India, which is the Pakistan state's policy, then do you react every time? What is the appropriate reaction? Do you react by opening another front for them instead of allowing them in concert with China to open two fronts for us? General Dua.
I agree with Sushant that it is very difficult to define a threshold in empirical terms. In fact, I have said that at a couple of channels myself. How many, sorry to use the word, but how many deaths is enough and how many kills are enough. I think you also have to see the larger context. Talk of 2016, when in response to Uri, India launched a surgical strike. That year, Pathankot had happened. That year earlier, EDI building, where the 6-storied building was taken over by suicide terrorists on outskirts of Srinagar in a place called Pampur. 66 hostages were taken. It took us 2 days to clear the mess there. It happened again the second time after a couple of months. There was a series of such incidents. So I suppose the context also defines the threshold and not just the empirical number of kills or number of encounters. Allow me to make another point, Barkha. What we are seeing now, over the last couple of months, what we are seeing, or let me start again. What is happening in Kashmir over the last couple of days? We've seen a couple of encounters. Today is very sad. We lost a soldier as well in a bad action. What has been happening in Jammu region for the last couple of months and what is happening in Kashmir in the last couple of weeks are two different things. In my way of looking at things, what is happening in Jammu region is a concerted action on the part of Pakistan to activate dormant areas. I will not repeat the points that have already been made. The area has been dormant. It has had comparative peace, and hence there has been thinning out of forces, of agencies, etc. And they are trying to activate the dormant areas in Jammu region, and we've seen all the encounters. What is happening in Kashmir now on the LOC? It is almost a cyclic thing that happens every year. When snow melts, this is the time that activity picks up along the LOC, whether it is infiltration bids, violence in the hinterland, or bad actions. This happens now. Yes, it could have been timed along with the Kargil Vijay Divas for the purpose of making a statement. To respond to one of the points Sushant made in terms of our preparedness, I'm not trying to bat for anybody, but the fact remains that on a long 770 kilometers of LOC, while all soldiers are always prepared, but when infiltration bids take place, the infiltrators have the initiative. At some places, they will have some success, and especially on a bad action strike, and go back. But this bad action, unlike many bad actions, has been a good one. From the defender's point of view, we've actually managed to foil their attempt, though our soldiers got wounded. About the last point I want to make is about how to impose costs on Pakistan. We need to have a better, larger strategy instead of these tactical responses. And the larger strategy, we've already heard two speakers speak about China-Pakistan nexus or collusion. But the point is, we need to make it impose costs on Pakistan. That can take many shapes. We can think about it. I'm sure perhaps those in service and the leadership is thinking about it. But just to rattle off a few, for instance, we have a ceasefire on the LOC. Is that ceasefire, it does benefit all those who live on the LOC, soldiers as well as civilians on both sides. It does benefit them. But, I mean, if we want to raise the cost for Pakistan, because Pakistan is they are also embroiled on their western front, so we can increase the cost for them on their eastern front. We need to think of using all approaches or using all instruments of power, whether it is the economic angle or the diplomatic instrument of power. We need to increase the cost for Pakistan in every aspect to deter them to take these kind of actions on the LOC.
Let me bring in General Katoch before I go back to Sushant with many questions that the initial comments have raised. General Katoch, I think the point about China cannot be ignored. And when everybody talks about, increasing the cost for Pakistan, making them react on two fronts instead of one. But if there is, as we all seem to agree, a kind of cohesion between Pakistan and China, it does complicate things for us. And then this point about rebalancing the security grid in a way that, not by falling back on supplementing with paramilitary troops, but rebalancing it to where it's really needed. Is that the answer? Because we should say that all of Eastern Ladakh is now using up troops in a way that didn't have to a few years ago because of China's provocations.
Thank you, Barkha. Barkha, I think, firstly, let me deal with the Chinese bit first, China has imposed a cost on us. There's absolutely no denying that fact. But at the same time, we must realize we have also imposed a cost on China, and we are better prepared to take that cost. I'm not sure if the Chinese are very comfortable to keep 50,000 troops in those high altitude areas, which, those young boys or those young Chinese boys, they are not very comfortable there. And we can take it. We've been living in those areas for a very long time. The Chinese haven't. So as far as that bit is concerned, I think we'll handle China. And I think this China bit, what will China do or something? China has done what it can. You see, and we have stopped them there. So now if China wants a confrontation, well, so be it. But I want to get down now so that the China thing aside, right? As far as Pakistan is concerned, the question is not what we should do to stop Pakistan. I think let us reverse the question and ask, why does Pakistan still continue to do it? And I think the answer lies is because they don't expect any strong response from India. You see, they think they can get away with it. In this particular case,
why would they think that after Balakot, after the surgical strikes? General Dua was involved in those surgical strikes after the Uri terror attack. General Shukla has spoken about Balakot. Why do you say that Pakistan doesn't expect a strong reaction?
You see, because they are carrying out small-scale actions which they are trying to attribute to various organizations which they have propped up. That they've given them very, I'm just forgetting that organization, which is an offshoot of the
Kashmir Tigers.
Stuff like that. I mean, they're giving it localized names and giving them the status of freedom fighters, etc., etc., and trying to portray it as a movement from the sons of the soil. So on the world opinion, they've got some sort of they can claim that, listen, these aren't ours, and India is unnecessarily ratcheting up the show. Now, they've got Chinese support. There's absolutely no doubts about that. And China may have also told them, please ratchet up some pressure. I have a feeling it is not just China. China is certainly one part of it. And I think even the West, when I'm looking at the United States and the NATO, I think they're also quite concerned. And they are ratcheting up this pressure simply to pressurize India on the Russian front, the Russian, the war between Russia and Ukraine. And the Americans have been very, very disappointed, and so have the Israelis and so have the others, to say that, listen, why does India still continue with its stance or a neutral stance with Russia? Because if India pulls out, then Russia has got much larger concerns than it would otherwise have. This is one. So I think for some reason, have they been given the nudge by the intelligence agencies of the US? Because even if you noticed, when you're looking at the election campaign which was fought here, you're seeing a similar sort of thing playing out now in the United States. Those statements which are coming, democracy in danger, and if Narendra Modi is elected, this will be the last election which India will have. And on the American side, they're saying if Trump is elected, there'll be the last election which India will have. And there are many similarities like that. So I think there are larger geopolitical forces at play which Pakistan is banking on. But let me get down to the crux of it now. I mean, the way I look at it. You see, the question is, I have been arguing about this in my writings also. It is a two-sided response. Two things have to happen. One is a statement given by the Prime Minister, as a declaratory statement. The way President Jimmy Carter gave in the 70s or 80s, I think that time, when he spoke of the Persian Gulf as being of American interest, and they will do whatever they have to guard it. That became the American doctrine, and they implemented it. So I had advocated, that there has to be an Indian doctrine too, and it has to be enunciated by a person no less than the Prime Minister to state that any of these acts will be treated as an act of war and will be responded to accordingly. Now, that statement has come about. Now, the second part has to be seen. You see, even if one drone crosses over, because we know it has been done by the Pakistan military, the ceasefire has been violated. When these bad groups or terrorist groups come from across the line of control, it is a terrorist action. And I think any person who gives support to that action is a legitimate target now. Now it is a legitimate target based on the statement of the Prime Minister. It is a legitimate target, and those posts which are involved in providing that support, they are enemy and they can be destroyed, and they should be destroyed.
Okay.
Now, obviously, this will lead to escalation. No, just one more minute. This will lead to escalation, but that's the whole purpose. You see, if every time we are scared, like I was speaking to a bunch of students and they said, "Sir, अगर हम कर देंगे, तो फिर हमारे भी लोग मरेंगे." अभी ये डर के ये लड़ाई नहीं लड़ी जा सकती है. They are going to be costs for India. We will bear those costs, but we will break this country. If that message goes across, they will think 20 times before sending one person across. After the Prime Minister's declaratory intent, we need ground action, and that will make that is the only way we can stop further actions. Barkha.